welcome back to all of you to this special Masterclass edition, Back to School edition, where we hope to inspire each other and making the best use of your time. We are so delighted and proud to have here Joe Shami, our trainer and tutor from Oxford College of Marketing. Joe is well known to most of our students. She is happy to return in Romania and inspire Romanian professionals and Romanian companies grow. So Joe, up to you. And thanks a lot for being with us today.
No, thank you very much for all of you being here, taking your time out of your busy day. So hopefully you can see the screen. I think you can see it, and I've actually put some subtitles there in Romanian. It would be interesting to see how accurate that is. I think it's getting better each time. So it's just a little bit useful. So what we're going to be looking at today is almost a real sort of brief look through some of the areas about strategy. So the whole idea is, again, it should last an hour. It probably will go on a little bit longer than that, but we'll try and keep within the hour. It all really does depend. So the whole idea is what we're really looking at is the sort of the strategic planning that we are starting to be looking at. So this is looking at what we mean by strategy, how we can incorporate it, what we can do to help us through. So again, I think what we'll start off with is a quick poll, because again, that will allow people to come in as well. So I've got a quick poll to ask you just to see where you are at the moment. So if you want to load up the poll, if it comes through. What's interesting, and not a challenge, some of it, obviously one person or so is turning around that. Can we get the results up of the poll? Because I can only see. I don't know which one is the highest one. So if we think about the first one, so a moderate challenge in terms of marketing strategy, defining the strategy. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Can be a significant, some major challenge. So what we can start to see in the pattern, it's actually everything is looking the same. Most of these are quite significant challenges and moderate challenges. So they're sort of fitting in between the two. And if we think about the AI is now a major challenge, that's sort of coming up a little bit more. Consumer demands, again, not a major challenge, but again, moderate to minor. So the actual evolving customer demands of authenticity is quite important. And the final one, again, long-term customer relationships. So it's quite a spread there in terms of all the things that we're going to be looking at are going to be in the sort of the upper quartile of moderate to significant challenges, which again is quite useful. So let's make a start. So what we're looking at is what do we mean by strategy and tactics and so on. It can be really confusing. Things are interchangeable. Let's see if we can sort of break that down a little bit. So if we think about the essence of strategy, and this is a really good cartoon. This is a really good, Alex M.H. Smith is really good. He's on YouTube a lot. He's got a book called No Bullshit Strategy. He's on LinkedIn as well. He has a newsletter. He actually comes up with some really interesting sort of cuts through everything. It's one view, but I do quite like his approach in many, many ways. I think the visual is very useful. When your strategy is your goal or your objective, it's just what you're trying to get to. When your strategy is a strategy, you can see what it's going to be looking at. It's telling you how to get. It's showing you the steps to get to those particular goals, whereas the goals doesn't tell you how to do it. Okay, and that's potentially one of the big difference that we'll have. If we think about what you're going to be getting at the end of this session, is really what do we mean by strategy? Okay, and there's lots of them. We could have a whole 3 hours on what do we mean by strategy, get lots of quotes from people, discuss them, evaluate them, see what's the strengths and weaknesses of each of them. But we're going to sort of break through that as quickly as possible. Then we're going to be looking at 6 strategic concepts of different ways of approaching the business strategy as well as marketing. So I'm not really differentiating between business and marketing, but you'll see why that becomes quite important. And then look at some of the challenges that you've helped out. And again, I've looked at some of the trends that have come through, and I've then sort of compiled a little viewpoint. And again, not going on any detail, but just taking that through. And then we're going to be looking at something with AI. I'm going to show you a tool of how you can be using AI and tools that you can get to help make your job easier. Okay. And then the final bit is looking at things like the race framework and some of the metrics that we can be using and helping us through, of which, of course, AI can help as well. So that's where it all helps. So let's crack in and have a look and see what we mean by strategy. Okay, so part of the big problem, as I said, it's very poorly defined. Everybody has a view. Like everything, we need to have a sort of a baseline of what we mean, and that will mean different things to different people. It's really interesting is that when we look at doing things like a brand strategy and a marketing strategy, and some of you will be brand strategists and marketing strategies, it's really interesting is that there really is no difference between a brand strategy and a marketing strategy. It's quite interesting because we would use the same framework. Whether we go into use something like SOSTAC, that could be your marketing strategy. You could also then be using it for a brand strategy. What becomes really interesting is it depends on what your DNA is. If you're a brand organization, you'll be writing brand strategy documents. So if you're LMVH, you're going to be writing brand strategies. If you're HSBC, a bank, you're going to be writing marketing strategies. So it depends on where your lens is as to what it is that you're doing. That's what I'm saying. Really, really complicated. I teach brand strategy, and I'm trying to think, is there actually a framework that we can use? We got communication frameworks, we got product frameworks, all of those things, but there isn't really one for brand. It's a mix of the two, and you'll see why in a minute. One of the things that we become really important is strategies about creating change. That's the most important. You're moving from one place to another. That's probably the best bit. It is a transformation from A to B. I remember I was interviewing one of the directors of one of our councils here, our department councils, and I said, "What's your job?" And he said, "My job is to create change. My manager's job is to implement the change." So what he was saying is he was going into the strategy bit, the thinking bit. Okay. His tactics bit was the implementation of that. And that's where that becomes really, really important. Okay. And that's why, again, part of the problem we have with strategy, we use it for politics, warfare, and the art of war is all about strategy, but it's seen from a war context. Sports, attacking or defensive strategy. Marketing, we would just call that acquisition or defensive strategy. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes these words are interchangeable, and sometimes we get a little bit confused. But the whole idea is you need to set the baseline as to what it is you're doing. Okay. And that's why what's really interesting is what it's turning around and saying is that when we look at that sort of scenario here, we can get to the point where we can turn around and go, this is the bit that becomes really, really important. Okay. It's the biggest thing that you can do that makes a change to your organization in terms of your competitors. Okay. Sometimes, again, it's easier to turn around and say what something isn't. Okay, like we were saying before, like the cartoon is not a goal and an objective. Okay, it's not where do we want to be, it's almost how do we get there by doing something. Okay, it's not a purpose or a vision, because we see that quite happy. Your purpose is why you exist, what gets you up in the morning, what floats your boat. That's not a strategy. Visions are aspirational. Where do you want to be is a visionary thing as opposed to a strategy. Okay. I always think, and some of you might remember this, if you think about sport, we try and break out the difference between objective, strategy, and tactics. What's the objective let's say football's going on, it's just started. What's the objective in football? So if you're a football manager and you got I'm doing the team talk in the thing, what's the objective of our game that we're going to be doing?
Mark as much as possible. Goals.
Goals.
Yeah.
Okay, sort of. Don't disagree with that. Keep going.
And winning the competition.
Okay.
And winning points and having
Okay.
a good position in the.
Right, let's break that down because you're throwing lots of things in there. Okay.
And winning money in the
Okay.
end.
That's lots, even more things. So if we think about a strategy in football, the objective is to win, which you acquire. You draw that out. Okay. So I would say a strategy or an objective always starts with the word to win. Like you were saying, the objective is to make money, to do two. Okay. So the question there is, how do you win? You answered that. But what did you say? How do you win a football match?
With a good
You
strategy.
establish.
Establish.
You establish the players that are going to be part of the team.
Okay, maybe. But how do you win a football match?
By
Keep it simple.
By having more goals than.
There you go. By scoring more goals than the opposition within the 90 minutes. Okay. So now you can see the objective starts with the word to. The strategy starts with the word by. By scoring more goals. And what's really interesting is when we say by scoring more goals, that is an attacking strategy. That is, again, let's talk marketing, that's acquisition. Get more customers. Or you can still win a football match by letting less goals in. So we could be 2-0 up, and we'll change our strategy from scoring more goals to a defensive strategy, which means we're going into the defensive, we're not going to let any goals in. Our strategy has changed. Our objective hasn't changed. To win is always there, but we can win by scoring more goals or letting less goals in. Okay? So strategy starts with the word by. Tactics is interesting. These are the operational things that we do. And again, you were talking about that, we might have the best players. But if you think of our strategy is attacking, we're going to put strikers on, people who can score goals. If our strategy changes to defensive, we're going to substitute the attackers for defenders. We're also going to waste time. We're also not going to give them possession of the ball. These are all tactical, operational things that are really, really easy to do, very quick to do. And in marketing, they're your 4 Ps. So what's really interesting is, if I'm the manager in the changing room, I'm going to say, the objective today is to win. How are we going to win? We're going to score more goals. How are we going to actually score the more goals? Here is the tactics board. And in every changing room, in every professional sports, there's a tactics board that will draw out and go, here are the plays that we've practiced. We're going to do play number 32, play number 36. So what's really interesting is if we think about a scenario where we're turning around and say, here is the goal, and we've got a free kick here, there's the wall. So here are the 2 people here. I'm going to say, I'm going to pass the ball to you. You go around there. I'm going to pass over there, and then you score. This is play number 32. We can change that. We can go 1 to 31. That's operational. The objective is still there. And remember, your tactics are to deliver your strategy, and your strategy is to deliver your objective. That's why that becomes really, really interesting. That's why it's not tactics or trends. Okay? Strategy is either attacking or defending. Okay? It's something that will be there, and we'll go through and look at that a little bit more. And again, It's not really going to be on research and analysis. We've done that all before. So if your strategy invites the questions, how do we do that? You've got a goal and objective, not a strategy. Okay. And remember, our goal or objectives need to be smart. That's nice and easy. We have smart objectives. Our strategy, attacking or defensive, nice and easy. Our tactics are going to be our 4Ps, 7Ps, whatever it might be. So if we think about, if it asks you how, be careful. That's not a strategy. You've got an objective, potentially tactics as well. People don't buy what you do, they buy what you do for them, the value. Value is perceived benefits minus the cost. What can you do for them? And of course, this all comes out in different areas. So here, so I'm saying this word strategy occurs in all of these things. The way to look at it is it cascades. It's like a Russian doll. Everyone fits into each other. Okay. And it's really interesting because I teach at a university, and I think this term I've got strategic management. I'm teaching strategic management, and one of my colleagues is teaching marketing strategy. And I go, I should go first. How are they teaching this at the same time? So I need to teach it on a Monday. He can then teach it on a Friday. He can't teach it before me because it doesn't make any sense. The business drives everything. The brand and marketing, and again, here is an interesting question, a big debate. Is a brand strategy fit under marketing? Brand is part of marketing. Brand people go, no, brand's more important. I don't want to build a company. I want to build a brand. I'm going to sell a brand, not a company. And you go, oh, okay. But it doesn't really matter. They're nested into each other. And then the social media strategy is your communications. Okay, so that's why we see how all of these fit in. And what you've got to do is you've got to get them all working together. You've got to get them all in alignment. And sometimes they go out of a line because some people are better at brand than they are at social media, or better at brand than they are at business strategy. So let's have another quick quiz. So we're going to put this up. I'm going to show you this, but we've got a quiz coming through. So which is an objective, vision, tactical strategy? So can we roll up the quiz? So can we end the poll or the quiz? And don't worry about it, it's fine. Is it giving us the right answers? Did you put the right answers in it? I don't know. But let me, you'll know which ones you don't. Again, let's go through that. Let me give you, here's one I prepared earlier. So you'll know which one you answered. So remember, an objective needs to be smart. And that, I wouldn't say that's brilliantly smart, but at least we've got a measure in there. Launch tic-tac, it's tactical, like we say, it's promotion. Will become the most suitable, it's vision. So again, it's the future of where we want to be, it's aspirational, all that sort of thing. Offer unlimited, and this one I think divided quite a few. So again, this is about partnership. Okay, this is again, you'll see how this fits in terms of competitors doing something different. Okay, and we'll show you what that looks like. Be the number one. Okay, that's a vision. Okay, vague. Probably that's why vision and goals are quite simple. Partnering with other gyms. Okay, a strategic choice. So again, you're making choices. You're making sacrifices in that respect. Which one are you going to partner? Hire 5 new salespeople. Okay, tactical. That's a people thing. Okay, and then focus exclusively. So again, here, this is looking at a particular one. So where you see gamble choice and where you see deliberate choice, you'll see exactly what I'm going to show about when we go into some of the frameworks of what different strategies are. Okay, so did you find that interesting? Okay, but as I say, I hate multiple choice, especially putting on the point on pressure and so on. So remember I said I looked at some of the marketing trends that are coming through, and that's one of the things that we looked at here. We've got sort of AI in marketing, which we know. Marketing automation. I don't know if you've read, some of you will know Salesforce. I was just talking to Awana. Salesforce have actually fired 50% of their Salesforce, of their people. They've replaced them with AI agents. So these are customer service agents that are now AI. They've still got AI doing most of the work, but where it gets complicated, then they bring in the human element. The whole automation. So one of the things that you're starting to see new terms is an AI agent. So now this is doing the whole of the process, which is even scarier. So now it's not just you don't need to do it, and we're going to have a little look and see how we can do that. So things like Zapier and stuff like that that are turning around and making sure that it'll actually do a whole function of things. Analytics, we're going to have a little look at some of the analytics, but this becomes, we are making decisions based on data. So it's the head, not the heart, that's helping us. Content marketing. So again, here, user-generated UGC, absolutely. That also will tie in with the AI scenario that we've got. So content is king in a sense. Social media strategies. Again, this is getting really complicated, where we're starting to see, what's going on with TikTok. Is that overtaking things? We've got all sorts of issues in terms of transparency, authenticity, which is one of the things that we're also going to be looking at as well. And then this whole idea of video marketing. Everybody wants to see a video. We need to see the image. And it's really interesting is if you look at the news, this has all changed. People used to do news, used to be the written word. So someone would write something and do it. Now the news is driven by, do we have an image? Do we have film? Because if it's not film, if people can't see it, they don't believe it. So that's shifting of how we do it. We are expecting to see visuals of that. And that's where it's going to get really interesting. Voice search, everything now is voice. We're back into the world of Star Trek. So now we're talking to, I don't want to say Alexa, and even to Google, because I've got Alexa and Google all around me. So as soon as I say that, and we're also getting to the point now, and I did try it, and it's going to be really difficult doing on a Zoom, but I don't know if you're using Gemini or ChatGPT, where you can actually talk to ChatGPT. I'm going to show a little bit of it, but I'm going to keep it quite visual. Sustainability, responsibility, and again, this becomes really important. CSR, whatever we want to call it, but now it's about ethics. This is becoming much, much more important. Okay, so when we look at a pastel, it needs to go into steeple because the extra E is the ethical bit that becomes really, really important. Okay, AR, VR, really, really interesting how that's shifting and changing. Okay, so now we've got sunglasses, so I can get my Ray-Bans with got Meta in them, and all of a sudden, here is a collaboration that's making a big difference. I think we're going to get to the point where I'm not going to be having screens. You're not going to be looking at screen. You'll be putting on, you'll have a sort of 100-meter screen. And that's why if you look at things like what Apple are doing in their Pro Vision, they've actually created a theater concept. So you can watch a film as if you're sitting in the theater without annoying people eating popcorn and so on. Personalization, everything has to be personalized and segmented. And we're going to look at that and again, link that back into the AI. And then omni-channel, well, we know everything needs to be linked through and all look the same in terms of keeping that brand scenario that we've got. Here are some of the areas that you have. Okay, fragmented consumer attention, rise of customer acquisition costs, demand for personalization and privacy. So here is a trade-off that you've got to do. Okay, do we find out about everything or not? I don't know if you remember that one, it's many, many years about Netflix, where someone was watching this really sad film. Okay, she was watching it and she watched it about 20 times, and I'm exaggerating. She watched it about 20 times over a sort of a 24-hour period. And they got quite concerned because it was a very sad film and they were really worried about her mental health. So they sort of contacted her, said, we're really quite concerned because your pattern is really odd and you're watching this sad film. Are you okay? And what was really interesting is she turned around and said, I've got a baby. And every time I start watching the film, the baby wakes up, I have to stop the film. And I have to go back watching the film because I keep getting disturbed. I can't watch it all the way through like everybody else. And you go, that's a privacy concern, or is that actually being a reputable provider? Again, challenges, the value, the return on investment that you're doing. You're not on overhead, you add value. Skills gap. This is the reason, part of the reasons why you're here, is to bridging that marketing skills gap and technology skills gap. Looking at consumer behavior, customer behavior, they are changing. And then your digital marketing strategy as well. Fortify it, see what's going on. And everything is about growth and so on. So if we think about what is marketing strategy, I always define marketing is about creating demand. So your job is about to create the demand, not to create awareness, but to create demand. That's what drives the business. And again, your strategy, you can see there the 4 bullet points: aligning teams, allocate resources, adaptation to changes because the customers are changing, the competitors are changing, and making sure you focus on the company's key priorities. So the 3 C's of company, competitor, and customer. So let's give you a quick broad overview of some concepts of strategy with a case study that will help, that will sort of explain that through. And what's interesting is that you should be able to identify your own organization. Now, this is quite simplistic, which is not a bad thing, because if it's simple, it's really easy to understand. You probably will have a little bit of a hybrid version, and you've got to decide whether the hybrid is the right way, or should we be more focused, more laser. So what's really interesting is companies are getting better and better at less and less. Everything is about the specialization and so on. So potentially one of these concepts might be the more important. And what I'm saying is, if you've got a hybrid, but they're not going to be equal. One's going to be slightly more than the other. So let's have a look at the first concept: strategy as an offer. So you're providing something for your customers that they want, but they can't get anywhere else. Okay. The most important thing is there's a clear value exchange. You're doing a mutual exchange. You're giving them a service, they're giving you money, whatever it might be. But we know that there's an exchange going in place. Okay. And the whole idea is you've almost got that exclusivity. Your offer becomes really, really important. And we go back into the Rio, it's very difficult to your competitors to replicate. So if you've got something that's unique, it's a very strange word to say. We talk about USP, unique selling proposition. And there is an argument is, how long are you unique? Remember, all of you are unique, just like everybody else. So the whole idea is uniqueness is a moving feast. Everybody is starting to be copied. I think if you've read in the paper, Xiaomi, who are the number 3 mobile operator or manufacturer in the world, they just had a cease and desist from Apple and Samsung in India because they are just copying them. They're turning around and saying, you're getting too close to what it is that we're doing. They're losing their uniqueness. And whether they're relying on intellectual property is a different question. So if we look at an example of the offer, so think about Netflix. Has anybody seen the Netflix approach in that sort of response of what they actually did? So remember, their biggest competitor was, does anybody know who? Who was the biggest video store company? Blockbuster?
HBO.
HBO, true. But in the US, Blockbuster was the hugest. But you were buying the video cassettes. Their offer was turning around and saying, what did they hate about going down? Some of you remember, you used to have to go down to the video store, get the video, you had to rewind it because they hadn't rewound it. But the most important thing is you had to take it back the next day or you paid a fine. they turned around and said, we don't like paying this fine. We don't like having to go out, get the video, maybe it's not there, and then come back and then go back out and return it. So their offer was something that was really, really interesting, is that you just get it online. Before it was online, interestingly enough, they only had started of Netflix when they had DVDs. And there's a very, very good article or podcast, Diary of a CEO, that talks about Netflix. So Diary of a CEO is a very, very good podcast. I would strongly recommend you get onto that. And they interviewed the founder of Netflix, and he said, we knew the biggest problem that we're trying to solve is people having to return them. So we wanted to post them. And this is before that the internet came a being. So they waited and they said, they brought out a DVD. And the whole idea is the DVD, you can post it. And they actually tested it really, really easily. So the guy who started Netflix, he put it in an envelope, posted the DVD to him and said, it works. The cassette, the old VHS cassette, wouldn't work because it wouldn't go through the letterbox. So here, it was a question of timing and getting it through. So their proposition was really, really easy. Okay, so you're not owning it, it's convenience over everything else. The next one is a theory. So here, we're in volatile environment at the moment. So what you're turning around and saying, you're testing a theory, and it's a hypothesis, and your strategy, and then this is all about innovation. So you're saying there are areas of uncertainty. So we're not sure if it's going to work or not. So the whole idea here is that you need to be getting feedback as quickly as possible. Okay. And what's interesting is the best example of that is Spotify. Has anybody watched the Spotify, I'm going to say film documentary on Netflix? I would strongly recommend it because it's 6 episodes and each episode is from a different point of view. One is from the founder, one is from the investor, one is from the coder, one is from the customer, and one is from the artist. And the whole idea about Spotify is they were turning around and saying, here is a problem for the music industry. Everybody is downloading free music through Pirate Bay, if you remember that day. And the music industry were going, how do we compete about this? We've lost our business model. So Spotify turned around and said, people want to download music, but they don't want to go through Pirate Bay for viruses, pornography, all the horrible things. You're not sure what you're getting and it's slow and so on. So he got the coders to turn around and said, I want you, someone taps in a request, a song, it's there in 0.4 seconds. And he was really, really specific about that. The issue there is he then had to get the intellectual property, the rights from the records company. And they're going, how do we do this? Spotify was saying, we want to give it to you free. Their hypothesis, their strategy was starting a freemium. So we can all go onto Spotify, we can get a song, but we can't save that song. We can't save a playlist. I can't share a playlist. I can't play the songs in the order. That's where you have to pay. So that again was a little bit of a trade-off of saying, yes, it's free, but you'll actually want to pay the extra for that. The other thing that they got is they got all of the information, the data for what people were listening to. And that went back to the record company. So again, it was a win-win. So there's a really 2 ways of doing it. Here is a gamble. So here, this is what you're looking at is, yeah, it's going to fail. There's no risk, no reward. So what we're looking at here is you're actually turning around and creating a real clear approach. And again, we can see if Trader Joe's. Do you know what Trader Joe's is? Have you heard of Aldi and Lidl? Okay. Trader Joe's is Aldi, but in America. So Trader Joe's biggest competitor, because it's a premium type thing, but it's all about the savings. So people love Trader Joe's. Okay. The biggest competitor is Whole Foods. So Trader Joe's is Aldi, and most Americans don't know that it's Aldi. The whole idea is, and again, this is like Primark, Very, very similar. Again, it's low cost. It's like the airlines, the low cost, the Wizz Air and so on. There's no online shopping. It's too expensive. No self-checkouts. Okay, we want you to keep their self-checkouts. There's going to be an issue about theft. No loyalty cards. Everything's in the price. No branded products. It's changing a little bit, but no branded products because that's where we get our profit from. Number 4 is a secret. So here's a market insight that we know. Guess what? Everybody knows it, but we're going to do it. Facebook wasn't the only one that was doing university college books, but they used that information. They took it through. They used that secret and they got the insight. They then created the systems, the scale of what it is they were going to do. Okay. What do we know that our competitors don't? Don't forget, they will know it later. So the whole idea is you need to get that first mover advantage. So a good example of that is Zara. So what they termed as fast fashion. And we think fast fashion is where it comes from the catwalk to the shop. And it's not. It's all about, if we think about the place, it's all about the fulfillment and the resupplying of clothes in there. And one of the things that Zara have is when it's gone, it's gone. So they are training the people of, if you see a pair of boots in Zara, you go, I'll get it next week. You go, no, you won't, because it won't be here. Are you getting it in stock? No, because it's a new one. So they are educating the people. But the most important thing is they will try and say, if we will have 10 pairs of boots in the store, if we sell out, guess what? The next 10 pairs will be within the next couple of days, hours, and so on. And they moved from that really clear operational insight of trying to get that difficulty in terms of that resupply and so on. The next one is disagreement. And this becomes really interesting when you look at disagreement. Okay, so if you think about, if they are copying you, you do the opposite. And you can see there, Nokia phones were robust. So Apple made a phone that was fragile. Sony and Microsoft made consoles that were powerful. So Nintendo made one that was weak. British Airways and all the other airlines cared about services. So Ryanair, customers service, they treated their customers like dirt. So the whole idea is you do something opposite. And what's really interesting is, how do you disagree with what everybody else is doing? Red Bull. Who are they competing against? Coca-Cola. So if I wanted to compete against Coca-Cola, I would have a bigger bottle and cheaper and taste better. They're doing absolutely everything the opposite. Their bottle is smaller, it's more expensive, and it tastes awful. What's also interesting is Red Bull don't do the manufacturing. It's done by Krakatau in Thailand, which means Red Bull in Thai. They are a marketing company. All of their marketing is they don't sponsor anything, they own it. So if you think about Formula One, they don't sponsor Formula One, they own the Formula One. They don't sponsor the football team in Salzburg in New York, they own it and they own the stadium. So the whole idea is that's how they're flipping it around. And that's why that becomes really, really interesting in that scenario there. The last one is choice. So this is where you focus in. So you're not trying to be all things to all people. And this is the bit that gets upsetting salespeople, because you're actually leaving money on the table. That's not a market. That's not a customer. We don't want their business. We have to be really, really focused and saying, no, we don't want you. And again, this is back into the segmentation and the targeting that you're going to do. We just want gold customers. We don't want the bronze. So here you can start to see of distinctive choices that you've got. So where we got the low frills, they're abandoning business travelers. The business class, first class, that's where they make a lot of the profit. They're telling we don't want them. If you think about Hallo, I don't know if you know Hallo. Hallo is an ice cream. It's a premium ice cream that's got low calories. And there are quite a few that are coming through now. What Halo are doing is they're actually looking at it as a healthier option, but it's a workout. So when you've finished your gym, you don't go for the protein bar, you go for the ice cream. So all of a sudden, They're in a totally different, they've created almost a new category. And that's the distinctive choice. It's a bit like Sensodyne. What's the number one toothpaste? No idea. What's the number one sensitive toothpaste? It's Sensodyne. We didn't have sensitive teeth before. So Sensodyne created a new category. Okay, and that was a choice that they made. Ford, interestingly enough, think about their cars, they're now going for the macho bit. Okay, and other people are starting to do that, not electric. And you've heard of Lush, and again, no advertising at all. Again, they're cosmetics, it's fresh cosmetics. It's like you're going into the supermarket, you're going into the delicatessen. I'm going to buy my ham. Can I have 4 slices of a ham? Can I have 4 slices of soap? Again, it's a distinctive choice. Okay, so done that really, really quickly, but you'll get an idea. And do any of you have, again, just drop it in the chat, do any of you have an idea of which of those choices or which of those concepts that you're identifying with? Or is it a little bit of a hybrid? Yeah. Okay. And like I was saying, I think sometimes we start to look at a little bit of a hybrid in different opportunities, different products, different categories might be doing slightly differently. And that's quite normal. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to try something, going into technology, which is always dangerous when you're doing it live. So one of the things I'm going to do is to show you a little bit about how we can start to use the AI scenario that we're going to be looking at. Okay. So one of the things we're looking at is a digital amplification. So what I'm going to try and do now is show you a couple of things. Firstly, when we talk about AI, let me just put this up here. We were talking a little bit about which AI do you use. Here's a very, very good website. You'll get actually, if you join, you'll get a newsletter. It's called There's an AI for That. So it's TAAFT. And what it will do is tell you what's going on, new stuff that's going on. This is changing so quickly. And that's why even if you look at the scenario here, you'll start to see deals, tasks, what's changed and so on, what's come up straight away. Okay. And if you go on to it, it'll ask you what it is that you want to be doing. So that's a really useful way of doing it. So what I want to do, let me just get my Chat GPT. I'm going to use Chat GPT. I use a variety of them. I think probably one of the better ones for research, there's 2 that become really interesting. One is Perplexity. So Perplexity is really data-based, and it will give you the sources and everything. That's very, very useful. And the other one is Notebook LM. Anybody heard of Notebook LM? This is going way off piste, but let me show you a little bit about Notebook LM. So Notebook LM is really interesting. So what will happen here? So here is, I'm using this for one of my courses. So here I can put what it is I'm trying to do. I can put some courses in here, and then I can ask it to find some more. So here I'm feeling curious. So it's going to give me some courses about strategic management, some sources. Okay. So all of a sudden, I've got some more sources I can put in. So what's interesting is I can then double check them, but I've put them into here. This now becomes the sources. So whatever I want to do, if I want to create a mind map, but I'm doing a mind map on those sources. So what you're starting to do here, you could use your AI, your Perplexity, get a whole lot of sources, put it in here, and then you're working with recognized sources. So you've created your own little bubble. Okay. Then from here, I can create a mind map. Shouldn't really do this. I should let it do it, but it's just doing it on the line sources. While it's doing that, I can create some reports. Okay, I can create a briefing document, which you can see in here. I can also create a study guide, frequently asked questions, and so on. I can do a video overview, or I can create a podcast. This gets really scary. 2 people will create a podcast. Okay, so if I just do 1 or 2, and I can create an audio overview, okay, it will create an audio view which is 2 people talking, of which I can then interrupt. I go, excuse me, I've got a question. And the AI will stop the interview and will answer my question. It's really quite scary. So we got the mind map. Let's go back to that. So here is the mind map. And now I can see exactly what's going on in the mind map. Really, really useful. Okay. The audio interview. I think I might have one already. So here's the audio interview. And I can make it interactive. Now, I don't know if you can hear this. Can you hear it? Okay, that's not going to work very well. That's why I don't want to do. But I can join this. So it's asking me to join in and so on. Let me just see, maybe if I stop the share and start the share again and share sound. Let's go back to the audio view. No, that's the video one. Let's do the audio one. Where did it go? Okay, and then you can create notes as well to do anything. Maybe you have to come back to that because it's redoing it. That's the problem when I've clicked through.
Welcome in everybody to another
Can you hear that
deep
now?
dive. And today we're really getting down to the nuts and bolts of how an organization understands the world around it, like how it figures out where it fits and what moves it needs to make to be successful. So we've got a whole bunch of frameworks and
Can you
models
hear
and
it? I can't
theories here to
see you. I've
unpack,
lost you.
all dealing with the external environment, with industry analysis, corporate strategy, the whole 9 yards. Our goal here, as always, is to keep it clear, keep it practical, and help you
So you
understand
can hear
how
it. Brilliant.
organizations
So
can
now,
actually use this stuff to make smart decisions, to grow, and to outmaneuver the competition without getting lost in a sea of business jargon.
so what's interesting is I can then join it, because we're going to run out of time, but I can then join into that. So again, depending on, again, how people want to be looking at that. Okay. If I create a note, so save to note, I can create a note in there. I can then also do a briefing document. Again, I'm only using on a couple of things, so this should be quite quick. It's obviously taking a bit of time that's going through. Okay. So really useful. Do your AI wherever you get it, put it in here. This will give you sources to discover. You can add your own. You can also add YouTube because obviously this is Google that will do everything for you. So let's go into our chat GPT. So what I've got here, let me just make sure you can see what I've got. So what I've got here is I'm going to get it to do a little bit of segmentation for me. Okay. So I've got a prompt that I've prepared. So I'm just going to put it in here. So as a world-class marketing consultant, give me a consumer persona for Gen Z female interested in gym membership in Bucharest using pastel, whatever it is. So now we can start to see, again, really clever. I always see AI, it's like an intern. Okay. And the intern, you're double checking everything. Okay. So now we've got Andrea So now what I want to do is, okay, thank you very much. That's really interesting. I'm a gym owner, marketing manager of a gym. So now I'm going to ask for Andrea. So what is the most important factor for Andrea? So all of a sudden, we're starting to see what her needs and wants are. And that becomes really, really interesting. Okay, so we go from there. Now, the interesting bit is what I want to be doing is turn around and saying, okay, I want to know a little bit about Andrea. I've practiced this, that's why it's answering the question. So I'm asking it, can we have a role play? I want to ask Andrea some questions. But now I can actually ask it. Okay, it's giving me some structured. It's a semi-structured. I want to interview, and then I can say, what is your normal day? I can actually voice it if I wanted to. It's going to be difficult with getting this through Zoom. Okay, so here is your normal day. So Andrea is telling me what her normal day is. I can ask her any question. I can actually get 3 or 4 personas and have a virtual focus group as well. Okay, so then I can expand it and see that. And the whole idea is it's pretty accurate of what it is that it's doing. Okay, you would need to double check this. Okay, any questions on what we've done so far?
Till we have the questions, thank you so much, Joe. And we would be so grateful if you could just copy paste and share the outputs within the chat so that we can check that. And
Okay.
in the meantime, I've shared just for this audience the great news that we have the chance to rerun the webinar with you, going in more depth with also brand differentiation strategies within the age of AI, and hopefully with the support of some managers here, we can have some Romanian case studies to test. There are some people from some brands that we all know and love, such Pharmac or Fuchs, just to name something with the F letter. Yeah, Pharmac, the leading cosmetics, and Fuchs, the leading innovator. So we can just play on some case studies here. And not at least Corinthia, which is the new luxury hotel in town, which is still a laggard in terms of using AI. So if we have the agreement, we can play on that.
Okay, I'm just realizing we're coming up to the hour. I've got some other bits to show you with regard to using some of the help in terms of some of the analytics for a digital marketing of how you would want to be doing that. But I'm conscious that it's now coming up to the hour.
So we announced it that it will be on October 1st. We'll check the dates and come back in the follow-up with you.
Okay. Anybody got any questions in the prompt? Can you see in the chat? Any thoughts or any comments? Yeah, I can see you're putting an offer in theory. That's good. So you're starting to see how that works through. But have a look at that notebook LM. It's very, and it keeps changing. That's why every time I go into it, they've got something new in there. They just brought out that bit where you can interrupt the pod. They now got a video bit that's working as well. And it's a bit of a game changer in that respect, because again, it's a repository where you can then query it, and then you've got the AI of Gemini that you're able to query anything that's coming up.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much. And it was indeed such a back to school edition, also for us back into the community, because the best way to learn is learning from each other. This curated peer-to-peer learning that you steer up, Joe, so well within our webinars, within our customized trainings. So it's so good to have you here. So hopefully more of us will rejoin you in the next trainings at Oxford College of Marketing. This has been also a bit of a taster of our new strategy and planning module within the new professional diploma in digital marketing. So we'll continue next time with digital, with branding, because also this new diploma that we offer with the Oxford College of Marketing and CIM has a bit of everything, has this strategy and planning, has the brand proposition, has the content strategy, has AI, and it's all now on digital channels. So please to send your Q&A. We will be so grateful if you give us some feedback. So I've launched a feedback survey, and the best part for us will be what topics would you like us to cover? And hope to see you soon back in our community. Also live, because Joe loves to come back in Romania.
That's true.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you very much, everybody. And
Thank
have
you
a good
so much.
weekend. Take
you.
care.